Ad infinitum. I could stop that jam if I knew how. Hey folks, how you doing? Nick Jennison. It is the Monday Guitar Show. It's great to be here. Apparently, my camera switching software has decided to bail on me, but that's totally okay. I can fix that as we're going. Folks, how you doing? It's Monday. We're doing the thing that we do on Mondays, which is hang out and chat about the guitar. And today, we are discussing practice tools that you should know about. Specifically, we're talking about some tools that you probably already have access to that you can leverage to improve your practice. Now, stop me if this seems familiar. Maybe you or someone you know, guitar player, asking for a friend and all that sort of business, for want of a better word, you practice a lot in circumstances that are maybe a bit like this. Now, excuse me 1 minute, I'm just going to quickly quit some software and start it again because there seems to be some issues with the old camera switching, and that will not do because we want to have all the lovely cameras going on. I don't 100% sure, not 100% sure what's going on there, but we may just have to do this all manually. But it's fine, I can do all this sort of stuff. We can still get a good look at the close-up camera. I can do it with my hands if I have to. That's totally fine. Not the end of the multiverse. Now, yes, stop me if this seems familiar. If you do an awful lot of practice that maybe looks a little bit like this, where maybe you'll be playing lots of scales, lots of noodling, with varying degrees of success. Some of them work fantastically well, some of them less so. I'm sure you're getting the gist, right? I'm sure you get the flavour of what we're talking about here. Now, this is what most people's practice looks like. And when I say most people, I mean most guitar players. Our practice looks like us sitting down in a darkened room, perhaps, with our guitars. We sit, we play, and then when it's time to sit and play music, like we did in that jam just a second ago, well, it all kind of comes apart at the seams for a variety of reasons. Maybe we tense up, maybe we just don't have the right feel, maybe the licks that we've been practicing just don't seem to jive with the backtrack we're playing along with, or whatever. Or maybe there's another musician we're playing with and they're vibing us, i.e. kind of giving us the bad vibes. We'll talk about all that sort of stuff as we go a little bit further with today's stream. But first of all, if you're new here, let me take this opportunity to welcome you on board. It's great to have you. We do this every Monday. We hang out, we talk about the guitar, and specifically we endeavour to make you, yes you dear viewer, a slightly better guitar player when you leave than when you arrived. That seems to be the mission, and it seems to be working, which fills me with joy, right? We love making the difference to you guys. If we have helped you, if you're enjoying what we're doing here, we ask one simple thing in return. Hit that like button on the video and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Throw it to your guitar playing friends with the share button. You know what to do. Anyway, we're going to say some hellos, and then I'm also going to tell you a little bit about one new exclusive that we have for you guys this week on this stream, which is an exclusive look at a new feature from the upcoming edition of Guitar Interactive magazine. We'll talk about that in just a second. It's going to be a brand new exclusive. You'll be the first people seeing it. We like to show you guys some fresh new stuff. So anyway, let's say some hellos, then we'll get into the meat of today's lesson. We'll stop and we'll talk about this feature in just a second. But first of all, PJ was the first one in the house. Marcin second through the door. Helmet Strap is here. Who else do we have in the house? Helmet Strap is here. Timothy Appling is here. Great to see you. Finally got in. I've been having a problem getting into the chat. Okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure what's going on there. That sounds like a YouTube issue to me, unfortunately. I would like to say, you know, hey, I know what the issue is with that, but I don't, unfortunately. The tech stuff, beyond my pay grade. Larry Warren is in the house. It's great to have you on board. I should say, by the way, Timothy, I'm very glad that you did get in, right? It's good to see you. Response Audio is in the house. Sacred Godslayer is here. Kim is here. Now, I missed a call from Kim earlier on because I was far too busy playing around with lighting. We've been changing the lighting in the studio just a little bit to try and pop me, the subject, out from the background a little bit, because the background's quite busy going on here. We've got all sorts of nice stuff. This is my little working project studio where I do the vast majority of my work. I record guitars here, I track vocalists in here, we've got a drum room just through the door over there. It's all go, but there's a lot of stuff going on, as you may have noticed. I'm kind of swimming in amps, but I've been rejigging things just a little bit. I think the lights look nice, and that's what I was doing when Kim called. So Kim, I'll catch up with you a little bit later on, but I'm glad you made it in. Franz is here, Cranker Tom's here, Jada Barter is here, Steve Smith is here, Deadman Doogie Van Dugerson is in the house, Chris Mullen, rightly observing we're all going to go and practice after this session, for sure, counting it, I am, that's for sure. Chris Davis is here, Stacey Douglas is tuning in. Stacey, it's great to see you. Dreams, it's good to have you back. Four Cornish is here, Legato, Phil Pax with a very nice compliment. Thank you so much, man, I really appreciate that. Mark McNish says, hey ho Nick and all, it's been legato bursts for me this week, trying to get past tension build up and get better at pull-offs. A very good observation. Let us know how that went, right? Because I want to know how it's working for you. I also perhaps have some advice to you on that front, but we'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to start that up and we'll address that in the Q&A section. If anybody has questions, by the way, don't forget, we'll do a full Q&A at the end of today's stream. Gary is here, Jada Barter is here, Bernard Newton is in the house, Binary Surf is here, Mal Riley's in the house. Oh, we've got Sam Bell's Guitar Gym. That is a great course, let me tell you. So Levi's done a guitar gym, Sam's done a guitar gym. I want to know when my guitar gym is coming as the resident Lick Library gym rat. But hey, who knows? It might actually be about the gym. Who knows? Like periodization concepts, double loading schemes, etc. Anyway, Mal Riley's in the house. Mal Riley, it's lovely to see you. I like learning to memorize the mode scale patterns for playing all of the fretboard and being able to switch modes more easily. Thanks. Hey, nice, man. I'm pleased for you. Raphael or Raphael is in the house. Dylan Jessup's here. Thomas Erdinus is here. Peter Montague is here. Roy Stein says, what kind of lights are they? Well, Roy, we are dealing with a couple of new lights behind me, which is casting a very pleasant light on my hair and on my shoulders, which is helping me to bosh out from the background, and I think it's made a little bit of a difference. Last couple of ones. Tim Hutch is here. Trolls, who else in the house? Troll, I don't know how to pronounce that. Trolls Jeremy, I apologise, I'm going to call you Trolls, is in the house. It's great to see you, man. Hey Tim, hey Nick. Tim Hutch is the legato master. Okay, nice. I'll be checking out Tim Hutch's play. Oh, it's Hutch. Of course it is. Right? Hey man, it's great to have you on board. He is indeed the legato master. You are correct. I don't practice until the TBT commentary. Interesting. I like that. Idle Saturdays here. Lee Kendall is in the house. Okay, right. We've said hello to everyone. We're going to get stuck into it. So, practice tools. Things that you have available to you that can improve your practice. We are going to begin with some of the most obvious ones, which are some contextual practice tools. But we also have some other practice tools available to us, like equipment practice tools that we'll talk about. And this is not anything fancy. This is just some choices that you might make with your equipment to make your practice more interesting or more beneficial. I'll talk to you all about that in a second. But first of all, let's get into the contextual practice tools. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's start by talking about some of the things that we can use to set our practice into musical context. And to my mind, there are three, unless you have the elusive fourth, which is a band kicking around, or other musicians. We're going to discount other musicians for now, which leaves us with three things that we can play along with. We can play along with silence, but that doesn't count. We can play along with a metronome. We can play along with, apologies, I'm going to get us cancelled. I'll do it this way around. We can play along with a metronome. We can play along with a drum loop. We can play along with a backing track. Now, these three elements give us essentially increasing amounts of musical information. The metronome is just a pulse. It is an unforgiving tick, and it has its place. A drum loop is, as the name might suggest, some drums. There is a rhythmic groove context, but there's not necessarily any harmonic context, unless you're able to hear pitches of drums, for example. The set is tuned to B flat. Anybody knows what movie that's from? There's literally one movie it could be from, but it's from that movie. But anyway, so drum loops give us groove context, but not necessarily any pitch context. Backing tracks give us pitch context, groove context, harmonic context. We're going to talk about when you might use each and why, beginning with backing tracks. Now, backing tracks are something that's on my mind right now. I'm busy making backing tracks en masse to go out on the Lick Library website. If you don't know already, Lick Library has a huge wealth of backing tracks, including a load of jam tracks like the ones that I'm playing along with today. But let's talk about the benefits of playing along with a backing track versus not playing along with a backing track. First of all, the cons. The cons of playing along with a backing track is that you have to find one. And you have to exert the energy to actually make the backing track go, to switch the backing track on, so to speak. Now, this may not seem like a huge deal. It might seem like just a wee little thing. But if you sat like this, oh, I haven't even got my chair reclining ever. If you sat like this, with your feet up and you're practicing going, oh, and everything's feeling nice. The thought of reaching out and getting a backing track, it doesn't exactly, I don't know, I got a bit too lazy for it. I'm like, you know, I can't really be bothered. I think we all do this, right? We all sit and we noodle and we doodle. But here's the thing. There are so many things a backing track can teach us about our playing, and things that may or may not be working for us. Let's start with a backing track in question. We're going to play a backing track in D major, right? This is the backing track we've been playing along with today, right? Sacred God Slayer says, lol, that's me. That's me too, right? Troll says, that's how I play. We all do that, right? We all do it. We sit on maybe on a sofa, or we sit with our, our feet up, or whatever's comfy with the guitar, just noodling away. Here's what we lose without doing that, right? Doing that without a backing track. Here's what we miss out on. We miss out on the context of what we're playing, which is the obvious one, right? The obvious one is, what am I playing and does it work against a sequence of chords, right? Does it work against some musical harmonic context? We also lose a rhythmic context. The rhythmic context is beyond just, is the rhythm pleasing? But it also is the question of, am I playing in time? If that's something we're going for. Am I playing on my own time, or am I playing on a broader time? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you have a phrase that works really well for you, right? Let's take a phrase that maybe is something like this. Ooh, that's a bit... That's weirdly harder than it used to be. That's better. That's working for me, right? Nice. I would treat myself to some gain. It sounds like this when the amp stops screaming. Now that's cool, right? I like that. But here's the thing. If I set that to a backing track, I may get used to playing this at a particular pace. Where it's a lot of fun and it works for me, right? And it feels nice, but it might not necessarily be something that I can then play along with some music. So if I throw this track on, this being the new John Mayer style backing track that we've been messing with, right? I'm just gonna fast forward this a little bit further in. So the, so the drums, the guitar start, that's what I'm looking for. I may not be able to hold my time. Have this lick that I've worked so hard on. Feel nice and feel like it's rhythmically cogent. Now, the way that this will manifest in your playing is if you don't do a great deal of this, and stop me if this is you, right? Tell me if this is you. The way this might manifest in your playing is it may manifest as you tensing up in an effort to slow down a lick that you've practiced on your own time endlessly, right? You've played this lick over and over and over again, but when it comes time to play with a track or play with other musicians, you have to put the brakes on, metaphorically. The difference here is the difference between, say, let's imagine you're driving a car, right? Instead of just driving at the appropriate speed, you only have one speed. It's the speed you practiced at, and you have to regulate the speed by pressing the brake pedal. Now, we can see how counterproductive that would be, but it's also the case with our playing, and this can come not from any technical error, but just from not being used to playing on someone else's time. Not being used to managing the speed of your playing, managing the timing of your lines, when you play fast, when you play slow, whatever, not being able to manage that in context where you're not determining the time yourself. What I mean by this is you're not sat there providing the entirety of the music. Something else is providing the time and you have to lock with it. So we've talked a lot before about working on timing and how you can lock with things, how you can try to bury certain elements of the music. For example, we've got a one for here from Sacred Godslayer. It says the backing track volume is too loud if I talk over it. Well, let me just address that by pulling my voice up just a little bit. Let me know if that's a wee bit better. Hopefully that's going to make sense. So now, let's do this in context, right? Let's give you guys an example of this. So let's say we were going to learn a scale figure. This scale figure is going to be something in D minor. And we'll make it reasonably challenging, but not like crazy challenging. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to present to you a scale figure that has some easy bits and some hard bits, right? That just sounds like music to me, right? But some easy bits, some hard bits. What we might do is we might play the following. We might play 4, 5, 7. Turn the slap back off, that's annoying. 4, 5, 7 on the A string. And then we might play 4, 5, 7 again on the D string. And then we might play on the G string 4, 7, 4, 6, 7. I'll say that again, 4, 7, 4, 6, 7. So we might get this. Yeah. We'll try this together really quickly. We'll try it at a pace. If you haven't got your guitar already, I'm going to encourage you to play along with this. Quick reminder, it's 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 7, 4, 7, 4, 6, 7. Now, let's throw the backing track on. And let's see how it sounds when we try to play this line with a consistent timing and flow. And then we'll talk about another benefit of backing tracks in just a second. But let's try going like this. However you want to start it. Lots of ways you can skin that. Now, what you may have noticed when you play this for the first time is you may have noticed that it's challenging to maintain an even pace if you haven't been used to playing along with tracks, because what you might find is that you play these first few lines, or these first few notes, and they feel really easy. Feel really comfortable, nothing to them. But then the pace, or the amount of effort we have to put into this, the amount of pace effort, for want of a better term, is not the same as the amount of effort this requires. That may require more, it may feel inherently slower, we may be used to doing this. Imperceptibly slowing down in the difficult bit. Like there, for example. Slowing down on the challenging parts, speeding up on the easy bits. This is something that playing with the track will reveal to you. It's also going to be revealed to you by playing along with drum loops and with metronomes, but a track will definitely reveal this to you as well. However, there's another thing that a track will reveal to you that a metronome or a drum loop will not, and this is a bit deeper. This is intonation. Now, what do we mean by intonation? Well, intonation is a funny beast. Intonation is the micro to playing the right notes as macro. Let me explain. So if we talk about the idea of playing this D note here, which is going to be on the 5th fret of the A string. A string, D note, 5th fret. There are lots of versions of this D that we can play. I can play D here, I can play it here, 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 here. Stop me if you can hear any difference between these. There's one that's a little bit obvious. All of those are D. Not one of them is F sharp, or A, or G sharp, or C natural, but Lydian dominant there. They're all different iterations of D. However, when we play on our own, it can be difficult to hear exactly what's going on in terms of our intonation, especially when we phrase. Now, this doesn't just apply to bends, it applies to any kind of fretted note and also to our chord playing. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play some stuff along with the backing track, and I'm going to play with some deliberately bad intonation. What I'm going to do to achieve this is I'm going to do a combination of slightly bending strings by fretting them imperceptibly, picking a little bit too hard, and also leaning down on the guitar's neck a bit too hard. This is something that I'm guilty of doing live. Now, when I get excited, if I have a skinny neck guitar, I'm guilty of playing this open position A a little too aggressively. I can lean on the guitar's neck and bend it slightly out of tune. Now, this guitar is less susceptible to that because it's got quite a chubby neck, but the skinny neck guitar that I play live with Blitzkrieg, for example, I have to keep an eye on. Now, this is something that will only be revealed to you when you play in context. So I'm going to play with some bad intonation and then I'll correct it and we'll see what the difference makes. By the way, when I'm talking over this, just let me know if the voice is sounding okay against the backing track. Hopefully it will be. But let's go to the loud, gainy sound. Do we have delay? We don't need no delay where we're going. Okay, here's some bad intonation and then we'll talk about some good intonation. Okay, so if I go like this. Now that's quite difficult for me to do, but let me play it without the track. Difficult to spot. Not so easy to spot without the track, but you put the track on. Gross. Horrible. Sounds like I'm out of tune, but I'm not. If I play with appropriate intonation, well, it all sounds nice. Now, this will only be revealed to you. It will only be revealed to you if you are playing along with a track. But there's more to it than this, right? There's more to it. We'll maybe do a whole session just on intonation. I'm just checking now because I'm concerned. I am actually in tune, right? Franz is awful. I agree, right? I agree. Deliberately so, right? Deliberately so. Please don't clip that and upload it and go, man can't play guitar in tune. It'd be quite funny if you did, to be fair. But please don't. Please don't. Anyway, so there's more to it than that, but intonation is probably best exemplified with a Van Halen tune. Van Halen tune in particular is the song Running with the Devil. Now, we all know about Eddie's trick of tuning down the B string to get a really nice sounding A-shaped chord for playing Running with the Devil. Now, that sounds tremendous. That sounds really nice. But now what I'm left with is I'm left with a B string that is flat. This B string, B note is in tune. This B is out. Gross, right? Really not pretty. Which means when I play my D chord, horrible. Why am I talking about Running with the Devil when we're talking about practice tools? Well, here's the reason, right? So we have a unique ability with the guitar to manipulate pitch through the medium of bending. Whether we bend slightly sharp, slightly flat, whatever, we can bend a pitch and maybe not make it all the way to a particular pitch, either by design or by accident. It can have a very cool effect. And this can be really interesting depending upon what we're playing over. Let me show you an example, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this same B, which is currently, I'll play on a clean sound, it's currently the flat version of B. If I play that against a G, very pretty. There, it's gone a bit awry. Let me just double check that. That's it. So if I play this G here, that's nice. If I play an air quotes in tune version of the B, it doesn't sound as good. That sounds better. Pretty consonant. If I play this in an E chord, what's wrong with your guitar, bro? It's out of tune. Well, it was in tune a second ago. Horrible. Gross. What gives? Well, to really sound in tune as a guitar player, to really truly sound like we're in tune, we have to be conscious. We have to be conscious of... oh, we've got a great comment here from Chris. Chris says, you say everyone knows. This is the first time I'd ever heard EVH did that. In fact, it's not mentioned in any tab or even the lick library lessons. Well, there you go, man. Now you know. It's I say this just like saying, oh, well, everybody knows that, but I didn't know that until somebody told me. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong to say that. In fact, I definitely am wrong to say that, but I just don't want to assume, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but hey man, I didn't know that either. So yeah, I'm glad I was able to share this with you though. Anyway, so to be truly in tune as a guitar player is not just to play the pitch and have it read in the middle of the needle on our tuner, it's to be able to slightly manipulate the pitches that we're playing so they sound the most in tune they can sound. How do you do that? Do you predict it? Do you have some kind of calculation mechanism that goes on in your head where you go, well, it's going to be over an A chord, so I need to play this C this much sharp? You do not do that. That is not how it works. What you do is you listen and you react. This is how bending works. This is how all intonation works. It's how violinists intonate. It's how singers intonate. We listen and we respond. And how do we do that on our own? We can't. How do we do it with a track? By listening and reacting. Let me give you a great example of why you might do this, and it might be really good to do it in a blues. So let's do a slow blues in B. I'm going to show you what it's like if I don't address any of these notes. I'll play B minor pentatonic. And then what I'll do, I'll slightly retune some of the notes by giving them a little bit of a bend. Maybe I'll flatten them by bending in a semitone below or a tone below. Maybe I'll sharpen them slightly. It's all going to depend upon which chord I'm playing over. It's going to be something that can only be learned by listening. We're going to play along with this track. It's in B. It might go like this. Maybe a single coil sound for that, I think. Nice. M Gray doesn't like the pentatonic. Oh no. Well. that's talking about? Anyway, so don't worry, I'm great. It's fine. We can still be friends. We can still be friends. I'll watch your live stream for the high-hanging fruit, I'm sure. Anyway, so through the tabs on screen, you'll have to pay for that, I'm afraid. Anyway, so what was I talking about? So this tuning thing, right? This tuning business, this idea of being legitimately, genuinely in tune, is all to do with how we manipulate the pitches of certain notes relative to each other. That sounds more in tune than that does. But if I put it against this note in its untweaked state sounds more in tune. You can only pick this up by listening. Literally, you can only pick this up by listening. And that is why tracks are important. In our next little segment, we're going to talk about using metronomes. We're going to talk about using drum loops. We're also going to talk about using the equipment that you have available to you to improve your practice. But first, it's my pleasure to show you this. This is a brand new exclusive, from the upcoming edition of Guitar Interactive magazine. This is a snip from Jonathan Graham's interview with Joe Satriani, no less. You guys are the first to see this, right? This little clip from a segment that Jonathan has put to Steve Vai, he's put to Eric Johnson, right? It's the G3 reunion issue. It's a segment you're not going to want to miss, right? But the segment is this. It is G3 or not to be, right? He puts a question to Joe. The question is, can you identify this player? Were they a G3 player? If they weren't, should they have been, or was it not to be? It's a great segment. This is a little clip. You can see the full interview in a future edition of Guitar Interactive magazine, which is coming your way very soon. But you guys are getting the exclusive here. When we come back, we're going to talk about metronomes, drum loops, and equipment.
We're going to attempt something here. The very first G3 quiz, Joe Satriani, and there's nobody better to play the G3 quiz than yourself. So the title of it is going to be G3 or Not to Be. Okay, now the concept on this is I'm going to play 5 clips, 15 seconds, that's all you're getting. I'm looking for you to be able to tell who it is from the playing and then decide whether or not it's someone who has maybe been on the tour, they would be a good fit for the tour, or unfortunately it's not to be. Okay, so
wow, that's really hard. Okay.
Well, let's start with an easy one, okay? Because I think you might know this guy. I will give you a hint, though, that unfortunately not everyone is alive that's on this list. So, you know, but we could put the little caveat of they could have been a great fit, or maybe would have been one. So here's clip number 1. This is the point where I freak out that I click something that I shouldn't on my laptop, but hopefully it's the 2 seconds.
Well, of course we know that's Steve. It sounds like Steve, like someone make believe he's Steve.
So that's definitely Mr. Steve Vai, and easy one just to kind of warm us up for that. Right, okay, let's move on. So we know he was a good fit for about 20 of the tours. So let's try clip number 2.
Yeah, that's Jeff Beck. Yeah, unmistakable.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Jeff Beck.
We almost did one together. We had a Jeff Beck and Billy Gibbons all lined up for a G3 tour. It was so close to going to ticket sales, and then Jeff pulled out at the last minute. So, but we tried.
Any? Did he give you any reason in the end?
At the time, the reason was he decided that he thought Prince would be a better addition to the G3, and we were like, well, that's obviously never going to happen, so I guess that's your way of saying I'm not doing it. So
what year was that?
I got to say that it's totally cool when people don't want to do it, because not everyone's cut out for it, and not everybody shines when they step out of their band, it's like, I remember when we had Yngwie out with us, I was really surprised how well he did because, he's a real dynamic solo performer. When Yngwie takes the stage, it's just Yngwie.
Absolutely.
And so he doesn't really have a long history of being in a whole bunch of bands, playing with, jamming with lots of people. But he's actually quite good at it. But my job as the G3 leader is to make everybody comfortable and to see what it is they really need to make them sort of step out of their normal path, you know what I mean, and join in with everybody else. But some people just, they're great in their bands, but they have no solo vibe, so to speak.
I understand for sure. What year was that? The Jeff Beck thing nearly happened?
It was right before Stevie died, so it was would have been, we were planning it. No, I'm thinking about this. It would have been, it was 98, 97,
Wow,
I think.
wow.
Started talking in 97. And yeah, and then we suddenly had to kind of switch gears, and it wound up being Shankar and Uli John Roth in the UK. Because we missed our window, and then we had to wait for another album cycle, which was the Crystal Planet album.
Of course, no, makes sense. Well, you're 2 for 2 so far. I've got a feeling that you're going to do well in this quiz. So clip 3.
I want to say that's Joe Bonamassa. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Joe's got the unmistakable vibrato in my mind every time I hear that quick shaking vibrato, although that's pretty distorted for Joe, right?
It might just be the clip. I've tried to get things that are not going to get me copyright struck, so it might just be the way it was captured. But
yeah,
Joe be a good
really
fit.
feeling it. The vibrato is like, wow. Yeah, fabulous.
Would you say Joe could be on a tour?
Yeah, well, he's a good example of a guy who doesn't need G3, right? Because he can travel the world and play in front of his own audiences and play all night long and sing and play. And so I'm sure he sits down and he sees a note from his agent like, "Hey, do you want to do a G3?" And he's like, "I don't need to do that." So
fair enough. Fair enough.
I totally get that, because let's take a look at, John Petrucci is a good example. He's done as many G3s maybe as Steve has. And when we approached John to do a G3, he said, "But, I don't have a solo career. I don't have a solo album." And we said, "Well, you got time to make one." And John, being the awesome character that he is, said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that." So he created an album, and John Petrucci, the solo artist, to come out on tour. It was just an unbelievable feat, and
absolutely.
But he really did step out of his huge comfort zone, which is Dream Theater, and to see if he could expand, his musical repertoire. And I think I'm so glad he did. He's just an amazing musician and a great person to just to hang out with and tour with, and I know his fans absolutely loved what he did. So yeah, I always think that someone like Joe would have to say to himself, "Do I really need this, like, creatively, or am I satisfied doing my own gigs?" And that's a question I want them to answer and be truthful with themselves, about that.
Guys, I would love to show you the full feature, right? But the full feature is coming. You can check it out in a coming edition of Guitar Interactive magazine. Keep your eyes peeled. It's coming very soon. Not only do we have that interview with Joe Satriani, but Jonathan also has interviews with Steve Vai, with Eric Johnson about the upcoming G3 reunion. It's a G3 reunion special. It is something to behold. Now, back on with the meat of today's lesson. So, we started talking about backing tracks and about metronomes, about drum loops. We went in a big wax about backing tracks, why they're important, right? So backing tracks provide you with timing, provide you with tuning, provide you with musical context. You should just play along with backing tracks, right? Not always. When is it better to play with a metronome? When is it better to play with a drum loop? Well, first of all, drum loops, right? Let's talk about how drum loops are cool. The good thing about drum loops is that drum loops don't have a harmonic context, right? They don't have a harmonic context in the fact that there's just drums. If I put some drums on, like these drums from Logic, which hopefully you guys can hear, let me know in the comments if you can hear the drums all right. This is my 16th drums. Nice. Playing some strange stuff today, let me tell you. Now, the good thing about drum loops is you don't have harmonic context, so you can play whatever you want over them. Which means if you're practicing things like, say, an exercise that maybe doesn't have a great deal of musical context to it, like say, for example, we're playing some combination of chromatics. Let's say we're playing a chromatic exercise I made up, just there, where we play. What I'm playing there is all 4 fingers, and then I'm playing finger 1, finger 4 on the previous string, 2 on the previous string, and then all 4 fingers. 1, 4, 2, 4. No reason other than it's just what fell into my hands. I can play that to a drum loop quite contentedly, right? Sounds nice, I can play. And it works a treat, right? That's nice. Other things I can do with drum loops that I can't do with backing tracks. Let's say, for example, I played that to my backing track. I'll just throw that back on. We'll do the old John Mayer backing track we're just playing to, which is about the right kind of pace, give or take-ish. What a surefire way to not enjoy that exercise, right? I was quite enjoying it before, and now it sounds like an absolute bag of hammers because that track's going away. But I get this. Oh, there's 2 tracks going on. Sorry, I haven't muted the backing track. Let's get rid of you. Go away, drums. Here we go. We get this. Dead easy. Other things that drum loops offer us that we can't get from a backing track is that drum loops are often, depending on how you get them, you can get them on YouTube. There's loads of great drum loops on YouTube, but if you have a drum loop in, say, Logic or some kind of DAW that you've got, or an app perhaps, you can vary the speed of a drum loop, and you can't vary the speed of a backing track unless you've got some kind of speedy uppy, slowy down software. Maybe you're using something like, I don't know, you've got Moises and you're speeding things up, slowing them down. I don't know. But that seems like a lot of length to go to for a backing track. But if I have this exercise and I want to progress it along with my drum loop, I can easily do that by scaling tempo. So currently I'm at 115 BPM. If that feels a little challenging, I can take it down to 106. That feels a little nicer. So on and so forth, right? Nothing to it, right? Dead easy. I can also use my drum loops. I can speed them up and slow them down to challenge my ability to improvise at different speeds. I can take this drum loop and I can challenge my ability, even with the big, lovely, delicious gain sound, with the delay, to play some cogent stuff at, say, 92 BPM. And then I can maybe move it to, say, 96 or 98. I'm learning something about myself there. those little chromatic figures, I want to speed those up. I can hear that I want to speed them up. The drum loop, as opposed to me sitting and practice this on my lonesome like this. Sounds okay, right? But as soon as I put the loop on, it will be revealed that my tempo is not there. And also, not being able to play on my own time, being able to play on somebody else's time, really important for that. Now, that's drum loops. What about metronomes? Surely a metronome is just a drum loop, only less fun, right? Well, kinda. A metronome is kind of like a drum loop, only less fun. But here's the thing. If there is less stuff going on with the metronome, we have to interpret the time ourselves. We don't get to have the drums dictate where the 16ths fall, for example. We don't get to have the drums dictate where, let's say, I don't know, let's say the offbeats are, or filling in all those lovely gaps between the ticks. Now, here's the thing with this, right? Metronomes, in addition to requiring us to play and, you know, construct the time ourselves, they also don't cover up our playing as much as a drum loop does. I'm going to throw a metronome on and let me know if you guys can hear this. Let me know in the comments if you can hear the metronome. I hope you can. I'm just going to very quickly check that we have our metronome set up going through the correct port. You should be hearing it now. The tick of misery. Metronome. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Yes. Good. Miserable. Here we are. Sounds like practice. Okay, but that's fine. So what a metronome gives me that a drum loop doesn't is I can hear more of my playing. Right, I can hear what's going on. I don't have as much immediate feedback. So let's say I'm playing with a clean sound and I'm doing that exercise from before, right? It sounds like frustration, says Dreams. Indeed it does. Indeed it does. I go like this. Now that is way easier for me to hear exactly what's going on. Then this drum loop. There's lots of full frequency information going on there. There's lows, there's highs, there's a mid-range snare drum. And what I'm hearing is certain aspects of my playing getting, let's say, hidden by the drum loop. So, for example, you may not have picked this up, maybe you have eagle ears and you did, but I'm hearing this. Not lifting this pinky finger. That's being hidden, as Nick Harrison has rightly pointed out, by the snare drum. Now, this is less fun to practice to. But it gives me the capacity to hear my own playing a lot more clearly against the drum loop, which would be like this, where I might be playing. Maybe we don't hear it as clearly. Maybe we don't hear exactly what's going on there because the drums are hiding it from us. Now that is one of the strengths of the metronome. It's less fun to play to, but there is nowhere to hide. And that can be a good thing. Confronting your weaknesses in the practice room, it's good for you. It's like taking your vegetables as a player, and you don't need to do as much of it as you might think. Now, that's metronomes, drum loops, and backing tracks. But let's get on to some technology, right? Very quickly, some equipment-based stuff. And then we'll run into Q&A. If we run a little long with the Q&A, I'm okay with that, right? That's fine. So, little technology-based stuff. Some things that you should be using in your own practice, right? The first thing you should be using in your own practice is, a variety of tones, a variety of amp tones and guitar tones. Why is this? Well, here's the thing, right? If we only ever practice with a particular kind of sound, we'll only be good at playing with that particular kind of sound. But having a plurality of tones that you play with forces you into being able to adapt on the fly to work with whatever tone it is that you're playing through. Now, let's say I have 3 bass tones set up here. I have this clean sound, which is actually not that clean, but I'll find a cleaner sound in a second. Let's say I only have one with loads of reverb on. So let me turn the reverb pedal off entirely, which will give me this. Very clean, right? I'll even turn the compressor off because I've got a compressor pedal on here. Super, super clean. Let's just save that so it comes back with no compressor. There you go. The cleanest of clean sounds. With delay. I also have something like this, which is a mid-gain. Let's call it a Marshall type tone. And I have the lead tone of Dreams. With an absolute bucket of gain. Each one of these tones is going to require something different of me. Something different of me, right? So, what do I mean by this? Well, if I'm playing with a clean tone, I'm going to need to be more measured with not just the accuracy of my playing, but also with the accuracy of my dynamics. I'm not going to be able to be as swingy with the dynamics, let's say, with a clean tone as I can with a gain tone. So let's go back to the clean tone. Hopefully the delay is back. I'll turn the delay off. And let's play along with the backing track. Let's go to the... let's stick with the John Mayer style one that I'm enjoying right now, which is this guy. Oh, no, that's not it. That's a cool track though, I might play that later. So really enjoying this with my clean tone. If I'm improvising away, I'll need to be able to play. I'll be able to play everything cleanly, everything accurately, and have it come out, right? If I then take my Marshall type tone, it's going to be a little different, right? This is going to require some degree. Marcin says the guitar needs to be louder. It does. My clean sounds quite quiet for some reason. Let me see if I can turn that up a little bit without turning it into a filthy, filthy, dirty tone. I'm using a preamp for this, so hopefully this will be a little clearer. Worst comes to it, I'll turn the track down, right? So we'll go to this. Yeah. That's a little better. It requires a certain degree of measured touch from me. Whereas, if I have my Marshall tone, I still have to be accurate. But now my relationship with the dynamics is different, right? So we get this. So here the dynamics are in such a way that if I play softly, I get clean. And if I miss notes, it tells me, it lets me know. If I go to my mega gain sound of joy and death and destruction, if I miss notes, it kind of goes, don't worry man, I got you. I got you. It's okay. The trade-off here is that it will not respond dynamically the same way. If I dig in, it doesn't get louder. It just gets kind of clunky. Oops. But it also requires me to be much more clean in terms of the noise that I'm producing, or not. If I'm producing a lot of string noise, this tone will let me know. But also, in addition to this tone enables me to be way more varied with my dynamics to get different tones, like a big dig in. Versus some very soft lines. You get the gist. Now, having a plurality of tones and switching between them regularly will keep you on your toes, so to speak. But there is more to it than this. We can also use other aspects of our equipment to our benefit when we're practicing. And a good one, as somebody has rightly pointed out, I'm going to see who this was. I can't remember who said this, but it was a very good point. Sacred Godslayer, there we go. Practicing with different guitars with different size and shape necks, different size frets, different setups, actions. You nailed it, right? Switching guitars makes a big difference. Let me switch from this, which is my number one PRS. It's custom 22. It's 25-inch scale. It's got a reasonably chunky neck, big frets. Let's switch to the Baum up here, which is a totally different body shape. The neck is in a different place. It looks $1 million on camera, that's for sure. But it has different pickups. The dynamics are different. A different string gauge, a different fret height. It's a wildly different feeling instrument. And switching between them, this is not me just saying, hey, look, buy lots of guitars, but I mean, it kind of is. But switching from the PRS to the Baum, it's a very different playing experience. But it requires me to stay on my toes, and we'll talk about why that's important in a second, but let's have a listen to it because oh yeah, that feels way different. Those frets, I gotta get my fingers right up on the pinkies to play this, right up on my fingertips. But let's try it along with this, see how it treats us. Feels nice. Let's maybe find an entirely different instrument that is also completely different in terms of setup, in terms of sound, in terms of everything really. Let's grab this guy. This is the Spira 7-string that we've got kicking around. First of all, it has an extra string. Secondly, it's 26-inch scale, tuned standard-ish right now. Let me just double check it very quickly. It feels a little cold, but that's fine. The action is higher, the strings are tighter. There's an extra string, but that's okay. This is good. Hey, hooray. Now, this is not, again, it's not just me saying, hey, look, buy a ton of guitars. It's not that at all. But changing gear can really have an impact on the way you play. Other things you might change an impulse response. You might confront yourself with an unpleasant sounding tone. Now, right now I'm playing through a very pleasant sounding IR of a really nice vintage 30 that I really like, but I may switch this to something that doesn't really work with the high gain sound, like an Alnico Cream, which is a little brash by comparison. Yeah. Let's get the Marshall sound on with that. Let's make it really cruel. And let's play along with the track on this. Can you play this on a 7 string? Of course you can. Why not? Lots of fun. Lots of fun. Is this the guitar that I'd reach for to play this kind of track? Not on your life, not in a zillion years, but having a plurality of equipment, a plurality of sounds, it makes practice better. Let's just put it that way. Why? Well, we already know from our discussions on time to pull out the ukulele, says Paul Bradshaw, right? Time to play ukulele. Right, let me show you this very quickly, because it's not a ukulele, but this is very cool. This is a little Bendolin. I'm not going to practice on this, but while we're doing guitar show and tell, this was a Christmas present to myself. It's a lot of fun, right? But check it out. This is, if you ever seen a man so proud of his tiny guitar, it's got almost no output. But it has this really cool jangly sound. It's best when it's in tune. That can just stay down here for now. But yes, instruments of all shapes and sizes. Acoustics are really good for this too, but I've no way to amplify the acoustic, right? Or I do, but it would require quite a great deal of complex setting up. So anyway, listen. These are some tools to make your practice both more fun and more productive. Employ them at your earliest convenience. But first, we've got to answer some questions. I'm sure you have some. We're going to take 5 minutes. We'll answer as many questions as we can. Here's a great one from Justin Ray. Justin Ray, in with the question for the second time, says, Nick, how do you work on 32nd and 64th notes? Wow, okay. Typically practice more my note types up to 16th notes and battle to get beyond that. Okay, right, interesting. So here's... Okay, first of all, what I'll say with this is 64th, I generally don't. I generally conceive, by the time we're getting to 4th notes, unless the tempo is really, really slow, I'm just going hell for leather, and I'm just going, I hope these notes are notes, and sometimes they are. Frequently they aren't, but, you know, sometimes they are. I guess I would probably practice 30 seconds the same way I'd practice anything else. I would just treat it as its own note duration. But a good way to do that is with a drum loop, because the drum loop will keep you honest here. So if we say, for example, we're good at playing, I don't know, let's say we can get 16ths feeling quite good at 120, right? And let's take the Paul Gilbert lick as our example. And then we maybe take the drum loop down to 60. We can now play the same speed where we play... And then we incrementally increase that there. So if we half the speed of the drums and we play the same thing, am I getting it? They're still not 64ths. At 30-second triplets, but quite fast. And then we can creep it up to there, let's say 80 BPM, which is 16ths at 160. And then we may go to 90. Let's go... Yep, that's good. And then we might go to 100, which is 200. Starting to fall apart there. A little softer, that works. starting to lose the rhythmic flow there, but at that point, I would struggle to keep my ear around that. And that's 30-second notes at 100, which is, 16 to 200. I don't think very often I need to play faster than that. But the next thing I would do is I would take a track that is of a reasonably slow speed, like this one. This one's in... yeah, that's kind of the pace. This is in G major / E minor, and I might throw the big gain sound of Fun and Love on. I'll throw the impulse response that I like on there, and I might try the same thing where I've got my 16ths, and we have a 30-second pulse. If it helps, you can think about this as being about twice the speed that it is, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 again, 2 again, 3 again. Not the easiest thing in the world, but I would maybe practice that and practice improvising with something at that pace, taking breaks if I have to set my brain back together. It's a very good question, Justin, and that's probably the way I'd approach it. So some more questions. I'll see if we can get through a few of these quite quickly. Here's a good one from Citizen saying, what advice would do you have for maintaining motivation, or if you lose your mojo / enthusiasm? Couple of tips, right, for this one. First of all, is don't be afraid to completely shift your focus as a guitar player, right? Don't be afraid to completely change what it is that you're working on. So the guitar is such a big thing. It can be like kind of disheartening to be working on improving your skills the whole time and working on just getting better chops or getting better at improvising or getting better at the act of playing the guitar. Sometimes it's enough to completely step away from that and work on things like your repertoire, say learning songs, for example, or maybe getting together and jamming with some of the musicians, or, learning a song and jamming along with a backing track is very fun. Making music is great for that. Another fun thing to do is to try writing and recording some music and seeing what you can come up with. These are all things that I would do as kind of like a practice pivot, let's say, where I kind of feel like maybe my practicing is a bit, it's getting a little stale. I don't really feel like the chops thing is exciting me anymore. Sometimes I just need to, for want of a better word, man up and just do it. Go, well, eat your vegetables, man. You gotta practice. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it's like, oh, geez, if I practice, I'm gonna want to throw this guitar across the room. If it's just like I don't really feel like it, I'll do it. But if it's like I really can't face this, then I know I need to pivot. I need to get on to doing something else. I feel like as well with this, ultimately, as with most things, you will benefit more from doing something that you're interested in and excited about than slogging away on the most optimal practice routine that you can't stand. Right? This is true for all manner of things. Certainly true for training. If anybody's interested in gym rattery, there's a lot of discussion of optimal right now, but optimal always gives way to the stuff that you'll actually work hard on and be excited at. So those are some things. Try and play with some other musicians if you can. Maybe try writing some music, exploring a different genre, learning some songs. Don't be afraid to give yourself a free ride to not practice the chopsy stuff if that's something you're into, or a free ticket to do that. Lots of things. Maybe we'll discuss more about that in a future stream, because it's a very good topic. Here's one from Timothy Appling saying, you previously mentioned that you keep the truss rod cover on your guitars because you constantly adjust the truss rod. Is that because your guitars change location environments frequently? Yes. And they also, I live in the UK, and the UK can be very cold, and then I can play in venues that are very hot. For example, the guitar can change the way it feels from coming out of the car to sound check versus sound check to stage, right? So I frequently feel the need to give it just a little bit of a tweak, just to make sure that it's in spec. But the reason for this is I have my guitar set up so that the neck has to be just so for them to feel right. Now, what I mean by this is I have quite a low action on the 12th fret. I've got 1 mil here and 1.5 mil here with the faintest sniff of neck relief. We're talking like you could fit a bit of paper under there. But if the neck relief is off backwards, it'll buzz. And if it's off too far in this direction, if there's too much relief, it'll feel stiff. And I use a heavier string set than I would normally use because I have quite tall frets. If that is off and there's too much relief, it throws off my, let's call it looseness. It throws off the relaxation in my hands. But if it's off in this direction, it'll buzz and it'll choke. So it has to be precise for me. But that's more to do with the knife edge that I like to set my own guitars up on. I don't think it's something everybody should be doing, let's say. That's kind of more the thing. So it does move sometimes. I will say as well, though, some guitars don't move so much. So I have the truss rod off on this one, but this guitar almost never moves. Whereas the, you can't quite see it. We do so much guitar show and tell, but I have this black, I may play this one at the end. Let's see. I have this black CE24, and this is quite prone to moving for a variety of reasons. I'll get into why once I've grabbed it. So this is the heavy metal guitar. You can see the sponge in the back. It has quite a slim neck in comparison to my other PRSs, but also this guitar has a sanded finish on the back. I took all the finish off the back of the neck because when you play in hot climates, you do not want finish on the back of the neck, let me tell you, right? So I just sanded it off, and that means the neck is more prone to moving around. So I adjust that fairly regular, and that's sort of why. It's worth it though, because this guitar plays like an absolute shred machine. It's not even funny. It's also got these really hot Fishman Fluence pickups in there. Needs a bit of calibrating. I need to get my hands around it. Also, I've got a bit of an earth issue that I need to get in and fix, but I'll address that. So that's why we do that. That's why we do that. Okay, here is another one from Sacred God Slayer. How old is this one? Now, okay, interesting. This one is 2006. And the red one is 2002. So they're about a similar age, but you're right, guitars do tend to get more stable as they dry out. My white Ibanez, which is lurking just off camera up here, is incredibly stable despite having a paper-thin wizard neck. So you're right. PRS without birds looks weird to me. You know, I get that, but I like the dots, man. I like dots, I like moons. I don't know. I think they look quite elegant without the birds, but I like the birds too. Folks, we have run clean out of time, right? I would love to address more, such as Mr. Cookie's question on slides. We'll get to that, right? Mr. Cookie, I'm going to encourage you to ask me this again next week, right? And I'll make sure I get to it, I promise, right? So folks, if there's anything we missed, we tried our best. Thank you very much for sticking around. It's been a lot of fun. We do this every Monday. Normally it's an hour. We did an hour 15 today because we had a big section in the middle, which you should go check out when it comes out. It's the new edition of Guitar Interactive Magazine, interviews with Joe Satriani, Eric Johnson, and Steve Vai about the G3 reunion. Jonathan asks all of them the same set of questions about the G3 or not to be. Super cool, as far as I'm aware anyway, as far as I'm aware, but you'll be able to see that when the magazine drops. We will love, I really enjoyed giving you the preview today though, right? That was a lot of fun. Folks, I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. We will see you guys next week. I'm going to play out on this guitar, on this G major backing track. Let's have the delay sound and let's see what this gives us. I'll see you guys next week.